What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Picking up the camera a little late this week. We've just been busy. Haven't really been able to pick up the camera, but no one's here right now, so figure it's the perfect time to get you guys up to speed on what we got going on right now. So on the lift currently, we have this really clean SRT4, and it is here for a couple of things. So as you can see, tranny's right there on the ground. Customer started to install an ACT clutch and just was having issues getting it stabbed back in. So we told him not a problem. We're familiar with these. We get it knocked out for him. Also, since we're doing that, we're gonna go ahead and remove, right now the car currently has an Enforcer EF1 or whatever, modified turbo. We're gonna be pulling that off, and we're gonna put a BorgWarner S256 on the car, and then tune it. Hopefully it'll land somewhere between 4 or 450, so that'll be exciting. The car is on E85. It's got 1200cc injectors, return line, rising rate, all that good stuff. We might add an electronic boost controller and upgrade the fuel pump, but that's to be seen. We're gonna go ahead and get the clutch finished up, tranny back in, do the turbo upgrade, and then see where we end up. So guys, as we move on with our project SRT turbo upgrade and transmission install, I want to take a quick second to show you guys what we got for it. So it looks like he's got partially new, partially used parts, which is okay. So we've got our downpipe, turbo manifold, O2 dump, new gaskets, new hardware, brand new turbo wastegate, brand new BorgWarner S256, and turbo blanket, our drain line and stuff. Got our old turbo kit off, an old Enforcer EO1 turbo. Looks like it had a 3-inch O2 housing, and looks like a Ford Motion wastegate. So all that stuff's off. And let me grab a light. So as you can see, we've got, let's see if we can get it back over here. We've got our, right there, we've got our water port plugged off, and then we've got our new oil feed line installed. See that there? So, and we got our drain line installed as well. So now we're gonna go ahead and get our manifold bolted up. Anyways, we'll go ahead and get our manifold bolted up, and then we'll be able to get our wastegate and the turbo bolted up, and then wrap up the turbo kit so we can go ahead and get the transmission back in this thing. So there we go. So to get you up to speed, as you can see, our turbo kit is fully installed. We got our wastegate done, dump tube, downpipe, manifolds mounted, turbo's mounted, oil feed and return line are on and tight. And we got the turbo pretty much clocked, I think, where it's going to end up. We may have to adjust it a little bit, but sometimes that happens. Either way, that part's wrapped up, and I think we're going to pause there before we go any further. We're going to go ahead and get this transmission put in, and then we'll wrap putting this thing all the way back together, and hopefully tomorrow afternoon we'll hit the dyno with it. So as you can see, this morning we popped the transmission in, and John is getting her all reassembled. Just snuck the downpipe up in there, but we're having to source some hardware for that, just because now the new downpipe is studded and it's a different size than the OEM, so we didn't have the nuts for that. So we'll get those. Our dump tube hiding. What? That'll be cool. Shooting the flames out the bottom. But we're gonna go ahead and keep trucking away, getting this thing put back together. And hopefully here in a few hours, we'll be doing our first startup. Our SRT4. I don't know if I got you guys up to speed on this. If I did, I'll take this part out of the video. But if not, anyways, this car is a 2004 Dodge Neon SRT4, and the early 03s were NGC1, and 04 and 05 SRT4s are NGC3 on the controller and the PCM. This car was manufactured in 2003, so even though it's a in 04 it was manufactured late, and what I believe is going on is the operating system inside the ECU. It's kind of one of those early models, and unfortunately with HP tuners I'm able to read the ECU, but I was unable to write the ECU. So talk with the customer, he's going to get a newer PCM, we'll get that married into the car, and then we should be good to go on tuning this thing.
Alright guys, as you just seen, we bumped up our fuel pressure. Fuel is running away up top, so I'm going to zoom the camera in here. We're going to take a peek at the fuel pressure and see if it's dropping or what's going on. Alright, let's see what happens.
But anyways, I just got off the phone with our customer, Jeffrey, on this SRT4, and as I suspected, kind of bright, as I suspected, you know, it's got a Walbro 255 in the tank. And he mentioned that it may have one in it before we got started. But anyways, you know, as you guys had just seen in the video, we checked the fuel pressure, and sure enough, it's not rising like it should with the rising rate, and it's bleeding off, so the fuel's running away up top. So we're gonna peel this thing off the dyno, and as soon as we get an open lift up, we'll stick this thing on the lift, drop the tank out, and we'll get either a Walbro 450 and put that in there, or we'll do a Hellcat 525. But either way, we'll get the fuel pressure resolved on this thing, get it back on the dyno. And he wants to make around 400 to 450 wheel on this thing. It is a stock bottom end, so we got to tread lightly, but it is on E85, so worst case scenario, it's not going to be knocking. And we'll see where this thing ends up. So stick with us, stay tuned. Let's find out what it's going to take to fix this fuel pressure issue. So guys, our SRT4 that we were having a fuel system problem with, we no longer have a problem with. I just made a pull with it, and I had John watching the fuel pressure regulator. We have the base pressure set at 53. Started making the run, whoop, went all the way up to 80. So our problem is solved there. To recap what we did, like I said, but the car had a Walbro 255 pump. At least that's what the customer believed, and then when we took it apart, that's what we found. So what we did was we modified the canister slightly, and we put the Hellcat 525 pump in there, and of course a new filter sock, and put it back in the car. Problem solved with the fuel. So just made a pull. It's clean. Focus. There we go. So that pull was focus. 365 horsepower, 360 foot-pounds of torque. So, pretty clean looking graph. And as you can see, what was happening before, fueling was good up in here, and then as soon as it come in hard into boost, it would just start running away. But now it's nice and flat. So now we can really start tuning on this thing. We're not gonna go too much crazier with it. It is a stock bottom end, so we'll stay right around the 400, 440, and customers should be quite happy with that. So let's get back to tuning on this thing. So you guys seen that last pull? Sounded good. That neon is wrapped up. Finished out on 23 pounds of boost, and final pull, 428 horsepower, 415 foot-pounds of torque. So that's a nice horsepower number. He's got room to grow, but obviously not until he puts a motor in there, puts a built motor in it. You know, I've taken a stock motor all the way up to 700 horsepower before, but that's me. You know, I knew the risks I was taking, and I had an extremely large turbo on it. The motor was making no torque, and it made a bunch of horsepower at the last second. You know, whereas this thing, you know, makes power at around 4,500 and carries it all the way to 6,500. So I'm sure Jeff will be very happy with the car, and I'm sure he'll want more power eventually. But that ACT clutch that we put in there and that Borg Warner S256 are doing their job. So that's gonna wrap that one up.